Welcome students again. Today I will discuss with you a new task of C++ tasks. Today's task is called car problem. The task says that in this question you should use the user-defined function as instructed. The mass of a car is x kilogram moved with an acceleration equal to y meter per second square. Find the needed time for the car to travel a distance of z meters and the resultant force for the forces that influence the car. To travel a distance, write a program with a function named time force. So the function here name is time force that accept the mass, acceleration, and distance as arguments. The function should calculate the time and result force. So the time and the resultant force is are based on these formulas. Time equals square root of 2 times distance divided by acceleration, and the resultant force equal mass times acceleration. If you know that x, y, and z must be greater than 0 and less than 2000, and the input format of your code is supposed to be as follows. The first line contains the value t, which represents the number of test cases. The following line or lines depend on the number t. So if t equals 1, then it's 1 line. If t equals 3, then it's 3 lines. Each of these lines must be x, y, and z, 3 integers, x, y, and z. So x in this case represent the car mass, y represent the acceleration, and z the distance. The output should be as follows. To print out the message, time equals the result or the value, the double value that should be returned after evaluating and processing these arguments or these variables based on these formulas, and the resultant force equals b. One more point here is to print out the result with 2 decimal places. So as you see, I need to format my output to be 2 digits to the right of the decimal point. So if we discuss this case, if the user input t, this means that the number of test cases or the number of cars in this question is 2. So the first car mass equals 1000 kilogram, the acceleration is 4, and the distance is 98 meters. The same for the second car, 1050 the mass, 5 represents the acceleration, and the distance is 150 meters. Your code must process this data and give us 2 output based in these 2 cases. Time equals 7.00 and the resultant force equal 4000.00. The same for the car 2. The next test case, the user inputs 3 test cases here, which means 3 cars. Each of one has its own data and its own results as well. So we have 3 time and resultant force values in this case. How to solve this problem? At first, we have to think inside the main what is going on. So first I have to declare a new variable called tc, which represents the number of test cases or the number of cars, and allow user to enter the value for this variable. Then I need to declare 3 integer variables that represent the mass, acceleration, and the distance. And I will go through a loop from 0 to t to the number of test cases less than 1, which means that I have to work through these test cases. So if the user enter 2, which means that we have 2 cars, then we have to work through 2 loops here, or 2 circles, or 2 we will implement or execute these lines of code twice. If the user enter 3, then we have to execute these lines of code 3 times. So it depends on the test cases. And in each test case, we allow user to input 3 values that represent the information for each car, the mass, distance, and acceleration. And here we will call the function called time force and pass x, y, and z as parameters or argument, as an input argument to this function. Based on the question, the function supposed to print out the values of time and resultant force, so there is no return value. And finally the end line. Okay, if we discuss the body of this function, as you see here, the time force is the name of the function. Void represents the return value, which means that there is no return value in this case. We have three parameters, integer m, a, and d, which represent the, as I mentioned before, the mass, acceleration, and distance. And then I will calculate the based on the formula for the first value, the time. So time equals square root of 2 times d, distance, divided by a. As you see here, the priority is on multiplication over the division, and then the square root will be taken for this value. Make sure that you write here 2.0 as a decimal value, not an integer value, because bad to code, if you use bad to code, then it will not give you 10 by 10 or perfect match for the next test case. So it's crucial in this time to use 2 as a decimal place value or a decimal value. Then I will cast or to convert the value to double. Based on the question, they asked me to print out the value of the time to be 2 digits to the right of the decimal places. This is why I use fixed and set precision functions. Don't forget to include IO manip in your code and the CMath, because you use the square root. So you need to include the CMath in your code. The code is running 100%. And if we make a... Okay, as you see here, it's perfectly matched with the cases. If we make an input, a custom input, one car for instance, with acceleration 1000, 5, and distance 30, then the output will be as you see here. The code is working correctly. It's working correctly as you see here. Thank you for watching. Hopefully that this video helped you to understand this task. See you soon.